Hello, everybody. Hello, how you doing? Welcome back to the Texas League Video Podcast. We are two this week, missing one of our hosts, but I'll allow my co-host to introduce himself first this week. Tell us who you are, good sir.
I am Jared Cowan, aka the Commish. I am the manager of the playoff bound.
I knew you was gonna put that in there. I knew you were gonna. I knew you were gonna sneak that in there somehow.
Because I
And
know because I that was done in honor of our other co-host who is not here because he was gonna say something of a similar
that
of
is
similar.
true.
He was gonna say
Uh,
it.
yes. Our third host, Mathis King, Dr. Deuce himself, is not here. He has some family obligations to take care of, so we give him a shout out. Also, playoff bound. And I am your third co host, Devastator, fighting for my playoff life. I got a chance to win and get some help and get in this weekend, so we shall see what happens. But before we talk about week 13 and 14 in Texas League, Jared, what's our kickoff question this week?
I was going to ask a question about Kirk Cousins. Simple question. And it bothers me a little bit, but I'm gonna ask this question. Maybe somebody outside of the Buccaneers can answer it for me. Why in the hell is Todd Bowles the only defensive coordinator who let Kirk Cousins look good this year? He looked good against us. Everybody else made him just look like, did I miss something? Did I miss the memo?
No, he looked pretty good against the Eagles that game. They had the comeback victory. So so Todd ain't the only one that made Kirk look good this year. Uh,
We
and
he threw like 8 touchdowns against, and he was averaging 4 touchdowns against us.
and let's give Todd all the credit because he also made Bryce Young look pretty good this weekend. So
The
he
thing
helped
is,
Bryce Young stave off the return of the Red Rifle this weekend.
but part of that had to do with the head coach for the Panthers being our former offensive coordinator. So it's like players. You might not, we got a new offensive coordinator, but you still know these players that you work with, and you kind of know their tendencies. So plus if you worked with this man, you know what his defensive tendencies are.
Well,
You can kind of scheme around him and say, hey, I know he's gonna do this a lot, so we're gonna call these kind of plays.
Well, considering the Buccaneers, your favorite team, face off against my Raiders this weekend, I hope he continues to be in the giving spirit of making quarterbacks look good this weekend. Um, the fact of the matter is that, rival divisional games are rivalry games, and just like we saw with college football this weekend over rivalry weekend, you kind of throw the records out the window when you have those kind of games facing off against each other because it means something special when you face those teams in your division. So, I think Kirk, who has embraced maybe a little bit too much of Atlanta and their new quarterback is really just he really just tries to he put a lot into those games versus the Bucks, but yeah. So right now though, with the Falcons losing to the Chargers last week and sitting at 6-6 with an they're technically still in the playoff hunt, outside shot if they can do something these last 5 games of the season. Can't count them out, but the whispers are starting to rumble. Is it time to give the rookie a shot? So Atlanta's got a couple of weeks to figure it out before, who knows, we might see young Michael Penix out there under center. But Kirk's the what, $50 million man, so it's gonna take. Is it 50 or 60? I don't know. It's a whole lot of damn money. He got a whole lot of money to play quarterback for the Falcons, so it would take a lot for them to sit that much of an investment on the bench, barring an injury. So
I never. Yeah, 4 year, $180 million.
yeah, so
This is
$45 million man.
yeah, 45 million.
Yeah. See,
Yeah, you're right.
Deuce ain't the only one that can do quick math. All right. So I just want to touch on a few of the interesting games from the NFL this weekend. Of course, we had the Thursday spate of Thanksgiving games. Usual suspects, the Cowboys and Lions, and then this year's additional game was with the Packers and Dolphins. Packers pretty much dominated that game beginning to end. Don't let the 30 to 17 score fool you. It really wasn't that close. uh Even the Cowboys 27-20 over the Giants. Again, it wasn't that close. If you watched any of the game, which Thanksgiving was with a whole bunch of Cowboys fans, so unfortunately I did. But the really interesting game was the Lions Bears, and the ending was interesting. Tell me what you thought about that ending of the Lions Bears.
Oh, they want to. Well, there's so much to say about it. Everybody wants to pass blame on the head coach because he should have called a timeout. I get it. But at the same time, you have a rookie quarterback. But if you are a rookie quarterback, that means you were in college for at least 3 years. I think you should know how to call a timeout. Like, this ain't your first game playing quarterback. But,
Players on the field and the head coach are the ones who can call a timeout. So,
somebody should have called a timeout.
and if you're the offensive, so I say don't just blame the rookie quarterback and the head coach. The offensive coordinator could have been screaming in that boy's ear, "Hey, call timeout." The OC can't do it from the booth, but he can sure tell the quarterback, "Hey, man, you need to call a timeout."
Caleb Williams is 23 years old. You should know to call a timeout, sir.
Man,
Just saying.
and his mama fine. I'm gonna delete that part later.
Just uh,
uh,
just
yeah, it was very I was really just looking forward to. I wanted to see if they were going to be able to tie it up in the overtime. The Lions are a better team. Don't get it twisted, but to see how the Bears went down the field and scored twice in that fourth quarter to even force to put themselves in the position to almost tie that game up was very interesting to see. So, um, Russell Wilson has quieted any sort of residual noise left over from when he took over from Justin Fields. Uh, the coaches, Mike Tomlin at the time when Russell was healthy, knew exactly what we know and what has been proven since Russell has come back. Russell Wilson's still the better quarterback. He's still a pretty damn high level NFL quarterback. And in a duel, in a shootout, the Bengals got in another shootout over this game, and they somehow ended up on the wrong side of it. Like Jamar Chase's frustration came out after last week's game. Well, I cannot remember his quote, something to the effect of "I'm not the coach" or "I don't call the plays" or something like. Basically, he was saying, "Look, all I can do is catch the football when it's thrown at me. I don't do nothing else. I don't tackle nobody. I don't call no plays. I don't make no personnel decisions. So don't ask me nothing about why the team isn't winning. Jamar Chase is doing his part, and he is. To the point where I even saw a post this week where someone asked if the Bengals were wasting the careers of both Jamar and Joe Burrow at this point. What you think?
uh, they got too much. Well, they got too much money invested in Burrow. It's kind of like this: get some defensive help
Right.
because you can't get in a shootout every week. You gotta. Because I look at it like this: there's like thresholds. If you score a certain amount of points, I think you should be able to blame your defense for a loss. And they scored enough points in a lot of games.
Yeah, this is
They
true.
had a shootout with the Ravens. Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow did their thing. Y'all let them down.
You know what's interesting with this game? 44 points scored by the Steelers, 38 points scored by the Bengals. So that is 82 total points. No receiver on either team had over 100 yards receiving. No running back had over 100 yards rushing.
How in the world did that
Pickens,
happen?
Pickens had 74 yards receiving. He led the Steelers. Jamar Chase had 86 yards receiving. He led the Bengals. Chase Brown had 70 yards rushing. Najee Harris had 75. But a lot of that was on that fourth quarter run that basically sealed the game when they were able to when they were trying to run the clock down. So, I mean, yeah. I'm looking at this like, man, Russ went for 414 and no one had 100 yards receiving. So, moving, no one person was overly targeted. No one had over one receive. No one scored, not counting the quarterbacks, of course. No one who scored more than one touchdown. So there was distribution among both teams. It's just when you're in a shootout like that, it's almost like who can have the ball last. So tough season. So if you look at the Bengals season, they could have the same record as the Chiefs, with the exception that all those close games for the Chiefs have gone the Chiefs' way. Unfortunately for the Bengals, all their close games have gone the other way. But sucks to be them. But then the last game I wanted to touch on before we jump into the league, before we jump into talking about this week is the Eagles Ravens. That is what a lot of people had picked and who still would consider it a potential Super Bowl preview. What do you think?
I do not believe the Ravens get it done. And the reason I say, well, you know what? I'm gonna backtrack and put it this way. If they don't continue to use Derrick Henry consistently, I don't believe they get it done. Because sometimes they seem like they want to try to turn Lamar into this Patrick Mahomes win us a game quarterback. That's not his specialty. He is, unpopular opinion. Some people say, I hate it if I say this. He's an athlete who plays quarterback. He's getting better as a quarterback as time goes on, but he's not a pure passer like that.
No.
You brought in Derrick Henry. Let him run the ball. Because there are some games that Derrick Henry doesn't have the stats that I think he should. I'm trying to think. It was a couple weeks ago they lost a game and he was averaging 5 yards a carry. Why did he not have the ball more? You got to explain that to me. 5 yards.
It was the Raiders game. It was the Raiders game that they lost.
Yeah, 5 yards a carry. Just keep giving them the ball.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need y'all to figure that out. Like this is not rocket science.
Yeah, the Ravens have some bad losses. And again, this is from a Raiders fan. That's a bad loss for them. Losing to the Raiders was a bad loss for them. Let's see, looking at their losses. Lost to the Chiefs, 1 touchdown, lost to the Raiders by 3, lost to the Browns on Jameis Winston with some superhero stuff. Last week's or 2 weeks ago, lost to the Steelers in a shootout, or not a shootout, in a slugfest. Let me see. Let me look at because that might have been another game where Derrick Henry didn't have. Yeah, Derrick Henry had 13. Derrick Henry only had 13 carries in that Steelers game. 13 for 65 with 1 touchdown. That's not enough.
That's the game I'm talking about.
That's
65. That's 5 yards a carry. What did you do?
Okay, so that was the end, and they lost that game. And it was that was some questionable play calling. I think that you have to remember when you have a running back like Derrick Henry and you're in a running situation, it doesn't matter. Like I know these coaches, and it kills me often. I know coaches try to outsmart themselves with some of these plays, but when you have Derrick Henry, you don't have to outsmart yourself. They know he's gonna get the ball. You know he's gonna get the ball. Give him the damn ball. You think he doesn't know that they putting 8 in the box? He's looking for it. So you have to let him put strength on strength and trust that he's going to do what he's been doing since high school, which is make people miss, run others over, and get you and he's going to get his yards.
So against the Browns, 11 carries for 73 yards.
7 yards a carry.
Yeah, 6 and something. It's right, almost 7 yards a carry.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is this man that carried the ball? I don't know.
So he had 19 for 75 and a touchdown against the Eagles. Saquon had 23 for a buck something and a touchdown. But he had the game sealing touchdown on a 25-yard run. So I mean, that's just the Eagles until the fourth quarter. The Ravens had pretty much kept Saquon anemic. Like he wasn't breaking any long run. The only long run he broke was the game-winning touchdown run. But they had faith in the man that they went out and got to do exactly that in that situation. The Ravens have to put that same level of trust in Derrick Henry. So, yeah.
Whatever, Harbaugh, get together.
And I agree. So, with that being done, let us take a look at week 13 in Texas League, where we had some very interesting results and where some people are going to be very sad. All right. So let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get my game out the way. So I had a matchup against Kirkwood, who has had a decent season, but who realistically is out of playoff contention after his loss last week. So I came in and I outthought myself on Thanksgiving morning on Thanksgiving afternoon, I should say, a few, maybe 20 minutes before kickoff. I sat Jordan Love and Jaden Reed, this stack right here. And I started DK and DeAndre Hopkins. Now, DeAndre Hopkins got me only 11, DK got me only 8. Had I played any of these three, well, either one of these players, I win the game. Christian McCaffrey literally came in and played just long enough to ruin my fantasy football season before he went to the injured reserve. So Christian McCaffrey screws me once again, thanks to Kirkwood's non-paying attention auto pick. So thank you, Kirkwood, for putting me in a tough spot going into week 14. But shout out to Kirkwood, yeah. It's been a tough thing that happened to me all season. I score a lot of points, but I shot myself in the foot. So Kirkwood got the win. So now let's go to my other co-host here who did what was expected. Break it down.
You know, like you said, I just have to do. I would like to thank the Denver defense for closing it out for me. It's Jameis.
Did he?
You know, as a Buccaneers fan, I saw it for years, and he did not disappoint.
Right.
3 interceptions, 2 of them taken back to the crib. You
Man.
know that. James. James Cook said he was going. He said, "Oh, McCaffrey now on the field. Let me see if I can look good." And he sure tried.
I mean, with the big bonus touchdown, with the 40-yard touchdown in the snow.
65. Yeah.
I mean, once that snow started falling, it was over for the 49ers. Even though, people, so a lot of people don't realize this, but the Bay Area, it actually gets pretty cold in the Bay Area. Like if you don't know, like everyone thinks that every part of California is sunshine like LA, but it's not. It actually gets pretty darn cold up in the Bay Area, but it don't get Canada cold like it does in Buffalo. And so once they had to call in the fans to come shovel the snow, that it was over for the 49ers. And so this is me, right? I'm sitting there thinking to myself, it's snowing. Christian McCaffrey has spent most of this season nursing the injury. They're not really going to make him play in those kind of conditions in the snow and risk injury, right? This is me, not even on no fantasy stuff. This is me thinking logically. They're not really gonna put a dude out there that's been injured the whole season to play in the snow, are they? Well, I guess we all figured out how that went. So shout out to Christian McCaffrey, man.
He from Denver. He used to the snow.
Man, it ain't the same thing when you coming off an injury though. This is just not. This is not. So shout out to young CMC, man. He's, the knock on him has been and again, this is not even just fantasy, has been feast or famine. And he continues to not have seasons back to back where he is consistently and can play through the whole season. I mean, some guys are just unlucky in injuries, and he is one of those unfortunate players that is talent is out of this freaking universe. But because he plays so hard, the injuries just pile up. So shout out to the young man. And since we doing co-hosts, let's go to our other co-host who also was able to lock up a playoff spot, final seeding to be determined. But he's right now currently in position to have a bye week for the first week of the playoffs. So we'll see what we think of him going into the final week. But I mean, him and two boobs, two balls, one goal have been sitting pretty high at the top of the standings all season. So this was a
I will
both of
say
them.
this. Two boobs, two ball, one goal was on vacation. I think he forgot to put Josh
Ooh,
Allen
he
in.
forgot to put Josh Allen back in. Mm, 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 mm.
And that is the difference because we all know Josh Allen has been his starter for years.
Yeah, that's a tough road to hoe. Mm, 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 mm. And
So
see,
that's
people
pretty much
people think I be tripping because what I'll do sometimes is I'll look ahead in the season and I'll set my lineup for several weeks in advance, and then I'll tinker with it as injuries come or whatever. But that's exactly why I do that. But I mean, Mathis King did everything he could with this George Kittle 1 point uh, to give him a chance, but just too much Bruce Irvin. So,
Bucky Irvin out here
Buck,
trying to.
thank you. I don't know why I said that. Bruce Irvin is a coach. Man, why would you do that? Yeah, good old Bucky ran all over the place. But then, even still, though, he also had his chance. Who would think that Russell Wilson would put up 35 versus, uh, the Bengals over Baker Mayfield versus a Carolina team that's been pretty bad this season? I would have thought Baker was the better play. And then, Freiermuth. If you were going to play Russell, then it makes sense to play Freiermuth. But if you didn't, then sure, you sit him down. But good job on sitting Johnston, who another week of just doing cardio out there on the field. Uh, um, let's see. We're gonna come back to Mr. Super Mario versus Company Man. Ed Corn versus Hanging with Hernandez. So, as I said last week, I since I needed Hanging with Hernandez to beat Ed Corn in order to could help me with my playoff hunt, because again, he's eliminated from playoff contention. So shout out to Steven. Uh, he's eliminated, but I'm like, hey, brother, it would be great if you could help me out by beating one of the teams in front of me. So I happened to pick him, and in a high scoring matchup between the two, then we're trying to think 130 would have beat every other team but two this week. And I've been on the losing end of one of those matchups this season. So I feel Ed Corn's pain. Couldn't have happened to a nicer person, but I'm glad it did to him, especially since I lost this week. So, I mean, solid performances all around. What really screwed him was lackluster performance by Seattle and Baltimore screwed him. So, and again, Derek Carr, I'm sorry, Kirk Cousins doing what he did, you know, against the Chargers, 4 picks and a pick six, which ended up being the difference in the game. So, hey, all right. Break since these your people, the husband wife matchup that we all got wrong. Break it down.
Uh, I you would think that Lamar Jackson would be in a shootout with the Eagles. It was not so. You would think that the Cowboys would beat up on the Giants and CD Lamb would get a lot of catches. It was not so. You know, I would like to say the Cowboys defense over there with 6 sacks and a touch and a pick six. I saw that. That 20 points that she got from the defense is kind of the difference.
It's
His
absolutely the
defense,
difference.
his defense gave him 0. Hers gave her 20, and that's pretty much the difference in a nutshell. Because
Look at your spread. You have a 9-point spread here, and a 20-point spread here, and a 15-point win. There's your difference basically. Like, and then here with Ty in the flex with Tyreek Hill and Christian Watson, like there's your here and here,
yeah,
But shout out to Big Green again, a team that's not going to the playoffs, but that's sure. I sure again would be in one of the other teams that's in front of me that I need to lose this week and next week to have a chance to go to the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate it. So, although hanging with Hernandez was our high scorer for the week with 145.13, he does not officially participate in our highest weekly high scorer pool. So, for the second time this season, we go to the asterisk winner for high score this week. So, break it down for Cuzzo. How did he get the high score prize this week?
uh, you know, Jaden Daniels came through the 34. Just
Jesus.
everybody on his team, except for his tight end, seemed to have a pretty solid game.
Yep.
Devin Achane, 17. Robinson, 22. The other Robinson, 19. The kicker even got double-digit points.
Right.
Yeah, it is what it is.
I'm just looking like it really wasn't. I mean,
Njoku down there had 21. That would just
right.
made it even.
Lucky you did. If he'd have played in Joku, he would have had it outright.
you know.
But he sits in first place currently right now, which is the other bye spot. So with the victory this week, he locks up the number 1 overall seed. And to celebrate his weekly win, we always have an opportunity for them to give some feedback or join us. So
Actually, I believe he actually has locked up that number 1 spot all the way around. I don't.
Did he already beat Dr. Deuce head to head this season? Because they both have a chance to be 10. If with a loss next week, he could be 10-4.
This is
And
true.
with the win, Dr. Deuce would also be 10-4. So I'm not sure if they
No,
faced
Dr.
off.
Deuce has more points, so I think Dr. Deuce will get the number.
Ah,
They've both locked up their buys. I'll put it that way.
gotcha. But now the only question is who has 1, who has 2. No big deal. Okay, well then cool. So he can kind of survive the week 14 bye week hell that the rest of us are going to deal with. But we have a statement. So we'll read that now for posterity. The following statement was released today by Akeem Hardrick through his personal attorney and business manager, Ray C. Washington Jr., chairman of Summer 08 Management Enterprises Incorporated, located in Lewisville, Texas, in response to his future career plans for the Texas Fantasy Football League and stranglehold on the number 1 seed. I'm back.
You know what? That he was the first person to lock up a playoff spot, but I don't know about the stranglehold he speaks of.
That's a
because
stranglehold is a strong. I believe he got the number 1 seed about 2 weeks ago after being number 4 and number 3 for a couple weeks. So it ain't like he's had the number 1 all season. Stranglehold is a strong statement, player.
You know what? That man says it's a stranglehold. I don't know about this stranglehold.
It's more like a tickle. But anyway, he is the number 1 seed currently, and he has a bye week going into the playoffs no matter what. So shout out to good old Akeem. So now let us take a look at where we stand on this year's picks so far. And hey, 90, look what we have. We have a solo lead in first place after week 13.
You do, sir. That you do.
And unfortunately for Jared, see, I told you to roll with me and pick against Edcorn. I tried to tell you. I
I
tried to
thought
tell
about
you.
it, but I like
I
my
tried to
gut
tell
said go with
y'all.
Echo. You did. You tried to tell me, but my gut said otherwise, and it is what it is.
But I could
Now let's be
also
real. Acorn scored 130 points. It ain't like his team
sure.
just.
Hey, this is true. This is very true. So I'm just saying. But
So
yes.
I'm gonna blame this on Kirk Cousins because I'm just gonna blame it on Kirk Cousins.
All right. All right.
I'm blaming Kirk. 4 interceptions.
Let us jump into our week 14 week picks last week of the regular season. We will start with our in playoff position co-host who is currently with the family, but who has sent in his picks. And to no one's surprise, he has picked himself in week 14, even though,
But of course,
again, he's playing for style points going into the last week of the season, which I will say I am very jealous over because it's a good feeling when you don't need to worry about a win in the last week. And I am not in such a position. So he has picked himself. Jared, who do you like?
oh, I think I'm going to have to roll with him, and I'm gonna go with Mathis King. I think it's gonna be closer than one would think because Hangman Hernandez has some players that are a little volatile, and that's where my problem lies. Sam Laporta, either real good or real bad.
In the last couple of weeks, he's been the
Sam Laporta caught a couple touchdowns on Thanksgiving.
right.
I
But think about it. Had he not caught the touchdowns, he would have been ugh.
exactly. How you catch 2 touchdowns and still only score 14 points?
Three man had 3 catches for 6 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is amazing. But hey,
Yeah,
still double digits. But
it's
very
still
feast or
double
famine.
digit.
I am also going to roll with my man Mathis King on this one. All right. Ed Corum versus Super Mario Cristobalin. Who you like in this
Oh, I should have did. I'm gonna do what I should have done last week and pick against Ed Cohn.
one? All right.
And like this man, why does my cousin have the double? This man has the double tight end. It's serious when you got the
He
double
saw
tight
what
end.
he saw what Njoku did last week. And
No,
you got
that
you
week
got to
that week 14 bye, you got to play who you can't. Oh, no, I just saw something that makes me might want Jamar Chase versus Dallas. That could get ugly. That secondary is better than it was earlier in the season, but that's still Jamar Chase. And I think
see.
that on Monday Night Football, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase might act a fool. Just start
I don't know,
because
man.
who gonna
Okay.
cover him? No, I'm gonna stick with my original pick, but I do think that Jamar Chase makes things interesting. And there's somebody else on this team that just makes me go, Brock Bowers, because we can't cover a tight end to save our life.
Yeah, Brock's been eating these last few weeks.
Yeah, he been
And he and Aiden have a good connection. So him and AOC have a pretty good connection. You can
yeah.
see, you know, the boy can ball. This is why they drafted him. When the Raiders said, okay, we didn't get a quarterback, one of the top 6 or 7 picks, so we're going with the best available player. And you can see over the last 3 weeks, again, even though they've been losses, this is the Brock Bowers that they brought in. This
Yep.
is this is why they
I
brought
got
him
him
in.
started in another league.
As
So
do I.
I'm
Because
still going I'm
I
still
can't go
going
through a fantasy season without having a Raider on my team
all right, you gotta do try to
somewhere.
do.
But even still with that, I'm still going with Super Mario
I'm
Cristobal.
I'm still going with Super Mario Cristobal. I had to think
And
about it.
and the reason why is because much like last week, I need Ed Corn to lose anyway. So why not go ahead and pick against him since I need him to lose? Why not put it out there in the ethos to go ahead and pick against him? Our third host is disagreeing with us. He has picked Corn for the victory. So that's his chance to either jump in front of us or fall one behind us. All right. In a battle of former league champions who had a rough season, Big Green and Kirkwood both headed to the consolation bracket this season, but they both have games this weekend. Now the problem with the problem for Big Green, of course, is that she is one of those bye-week Hales. So she found a diamond in
All I'm gonna
Bo
say is
Nix.
this. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, and she was
I
like, well,
ain't making no suggestions this time. She gonna have to figure it out on her own.
I'm just I'm just gonna say this. I looked out there, I saw some what I believe are capable quarterbacks, but she better go ask her fantasy analyst who's recovering from surgery to help her out.
So who are you picking in this game?
I'm going with Kirkwood because she's got too many people out, in my opinion, to
I agree.
Bo Nix is out, her tight end is out, her kicker is out. I don't Dallas ain't coming through with 20 points this week.
Justin Tucker being out might actually be a blessing for her with the way he's been playing the last few
It
weeks.
might be.
So picking up a kicker will help her, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get her past Kirkwood. So the three of us are in agreement on the Kirkwood pick. All right. Bench Burrow and Deal versus Company Man. So we have an interesting matchup. Company Man currently sitting in the final playoff position. And so you know what that means. I need him to lose. So since I need him to lose, I'm picking my man Bench Burrow and Deal to come up with the upset for me this week. Like you already said, Joe Burrow on Monday night versus Dallas. I think Travis Kelce is going to have a big game versus the Chargers. Uh, Pacheco is back, so that should help both aspects of the run game. I mean, just coming back off injury, the man had 44 yards on the ground last week. So, I mean, with the game under his belt and the Chargers not being really good against the run, I think that spells the perfect storm for an upset that I need. Now, the bad thing is, Company Man has Patrick Mahomes. So Kelsey's success is going to work against my pick, but I mean, Mahomes' success is going to work against my pick, but I hope it's offset by Kelsey. So let's go Bench Burrow and Deal. What about
You
you?
know, I'm a rock with you on the bench Burrow and Deal because I believe that Burrow, like I said, him and Jamar Chase gonna show up on Monday Night Football. Side note, do you know they're doing like a Disney version of this game? I
I
don't know
want
if
okay. So I did not realize that, but I know that they've done the Nickelodeon broadcasts
yeah,
before.
like they're supposed to be doing like some nickel like it's like I think it's supposed to be on Disney Plus. I saw or on like they're doing some like animated version of the game. But anyway, you
Not
got that.
surprised. I mean, it's all the same company. So
Yeah. I believe that Ricky Pearsall and Jawan Jennings, I believe they have good games. No, there's no McCaffrey, there's no Jordan Mason. They're going to pass the ball,
yeah,
and they're not in the snow. They're playing at home.
right.
So
So
I believe I think James Cook picks up where he left off last week with some solid runs. I believe that Bench Burrow and Deal has the ability to pull this one off. I'm going, I'm gonna rock with you on this one. I'm gonna rock with Bench. I'm gonna go with Bench Burrow and Deal.
all right. Well, once again, our third co-host has picked separately from us. He went with Company Man on that pick. So we shall see. All right. Two boobs, two balls, one goal versus Muff Divers. Jared, who you like in this one?
Who is Adams' backup quarterback? No, yeah, does he have one?
He's got Matt Stafford. which ain't a
Matthew
bad
Stafford,
backup.
not a bad backup. No, no,
And
no.
who's his backup running back? Mostert. Is Mostert even going to play?
Mm,
We
probably
know
not.
Austin Eckler ain't playing. So,
He got Jonathan Brooks down there. He should be. He's been getting more and more carries.
yeah, but
Not great.
I mean, Chuba is still pretty much doing his thing. Like Brooks, because Brooks was injured, right?
Yeah, he got hurt in
Yeah, this
college.
is just how, what was,
He was the one that got hurt at Texas, and
yeah,
then he
yeah, that's what I thought.
he
So,
go.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't.
his third
Yeah,
game back,
I
I
don't.
don't know.
I don't think this is his week, sir. I don't think this is his week.
I mean, as a chain goes, looks like, I mean, Mostert has pretty much lost his grip on the job at this point between his injury and Vaughn's emergence. I see Raheem on a different team next season, but in terms of this year, I don't. I mean, Eckler would have been, if he wasn't on the bye and was healthy, but oh man,
Yeah, just too much going against him. I believe this is a win for two boobs, two balls, one goal.
indeed. So, in keeping with my theme of I need him to lose anyway, so I am going to also pick two moves, two balls, one goal because I need Muff Divers to lose anyway. So why not go ahead and pick against him? And we have a consensus with our final co-host. So in our last game of the week 14, it's a double rivalry week for us because our real life teams are facing off. The Raiders are facing off against the Bucks, and we are facing off in fantasy. So obviously, we're not just to make it official. I'm not picking against myself.
Of course not.
Okay, so just to get that out the way, I need a win to get into the playoffs. Jared doesn't. If if I win and get help, it will be the first time that the three of us have all made the playoffs together since all three of us have been in the league together. I have to believe in magic at some point. So I say we pull off the victory. Even though I'm missing one of my three-headed monster running backs, Jonathan Taylor's on bye this week. It is my belief that I am going to win this game. I'm going to get the help I need to make the playoffs. And the team I constructed with my three-headed running back monster is going to help me once we get into the playoffs. So, and apparently our third co-host agrees with me because he has picked Devastator as his final pick. So we have two picks where we disagree with him and one pick where he and I disagree with you. So we shall see how this thing
No,
shakes out.
I can't. I was leaning towards picking you till I realized that the Lions and the Packers play tomorrow
Yep.
in in Detroit, and Detroit plays much better at home for the most part. I'm like,
And
no,
but the big thing for that game is because it's a dome, they really don't get the home field advantage. Unlike that reporter who didn't know that last year when they were playing the Bucks in the playoffs. As a long time, as a Wisconsin native and watcher of more Lions versus Packers games, and I can count in my head, I am very aware of the fact that that game is in a dome. And Jordan Love, after a terrible outing against the Lions earlier this season, is going to want to come back out and assert that Detroit does not have a grip on the NFC North just yet. So we shall see. But those are our picks for the final week of the regular season. We shall see where our season ends and who gets the fictional best picker for the regular season crown for this year. Jared, who won? I'm trying to remember which one of us won last year. I believe it was Dr. Deuce who finished the year with the best record last year.
it wasn't me.
Yeah, it was Dr. Deuce. It was Dr. Deuce last year. So I have a 1 game lead and a chance to to take the crown if everything shakes out. So if you are like most of us, so with this being week 14, either your playoffs are starting this week, or if you're like most of us traditional leagues, your playoffs, this is going to be your last week of the regular season. So good luck to everybody as we go into week 14 of the fantasy season. Good luck to all your real NFL teams this week. Jared, what games you looking forward to seeing this week?
Obviously, our rivalry, our real life rivalry game. Of course, there's that one. I am intrigued to see the Falcons and the Vikings
Mm,
because they talk about revenge games. So
mm-hmm,
Kirk Cousins, who's been playing pretty bad lately, get it together
mm-hmm,
as he returns to Minnesota,
right.
which I'll have to say is one of the loudest stadiums I've ever been in.
Man, I keep hearing that. I have not been. I've been to the new stadium. I went to the game at the old stadium, but I hear that the new stadium is crazy.
I don't
And
know, but it is
and
loud.
are the Vikings like the most under the radar 10-2 team that you've ever heard of? Like, I don't think if you're not a Vikings fan, does anybody even realize that they're 10-2 right now with Sam Darnold at quarterback? Like, that's some crazy stuff, man. So that's gonna be a game. As I already mentioned, I'm really looking forward to tomorrow night's game between the Packers and Lions. It's far and in between where we get these Thursday night matchups that I think are actually going to produce some good football for us. And I do since both and it's is really cool for both of these teams since they both played last Thursday. This is not even a short week for them. They actually got a whole week. But it's gonna be really good for them because now they'll get 10 days off before their next game. So yeah, looking forward to the Packers and Lions. Uh,
There's
and
quite a few 10-2. There's quite a few double-digit win teams already.
right, and that's what I didn't even realize that the Vikings were one of them. And
The
honestly,
Vikings, the Chiefs
I'm
got
sorry. Yeah,
the Bills, the Chiefs got 10 wins, the Eagles.
yeah, but Bills and Chiefs, that's not as surprising as the Vikings. So, but yeah, my brother. Okay, well, again, good luck to you. I
You don't mean
wish
that.
that
You don't mean that.
listen. I wish that we were in a position where our game this weekend didn't matter. But we're fighting for our playoff life, or at least I am. And so I cannot say that I hope that you win your fantasy matchup in our league this weekend because
You know what? I'll say this. You can win the matchup in the Dynasty League.
oh we're matching up, and I didn't even realize we were matching up in the dynasty league too.
I think I could.
And you know what? You already beat me in that league early this season, so I owe you a win. I owe you a game in that season in that league too. So now I hope I beat you twice.
Just don't be
And,
mad.
and I don't even usually do this, but I'm gonna say this: if I have to choose between the Raiders beating the Buccaneers and my fantasy team winning, I choose my fantasy team
Okay.
because my fantasy team still has a chance at the playoffs.
I would just like to say, 4 years ago you made that same comment, sir.
Hey,
You made that same comment 4 years ago,
yes.
and I sat and watched football with a newborn Jefferson Cowan, and your fantasy team destroyed me as Tom Brady, your fantasy quarterback, diced your secondary up.
I stand by
So you know
it.
what? That's not the first time you said that.
I I
You know
I
what?
stand
At
by
least you're
it.
consistent. At least
Yeah.
you're consistent.
When it matters, I know who to pick. So, all right,
I
everybody.
would like to, before we go, I just want the record to show that we played in week 3 and you beat me. So I owe you an L this week.
I
I just want the record to
forgot we did play in this. We did play in this
yes,
league
we have,
already.
we have played once already, and you
Well,
beat me handedly because my team, yeah, that was I had to go pull it up. I lost 137.9 to 82.1. No, sir.
well, I'm not looking for nothing like that. But I'll say this: Dr. Deuce beat both of us this season, and you're 0-1. So I'd rather end the season 2-1 against my co-host than 1-2. So
Yeah,
Just
Dr.
saying.
Deuce got me about it was a close one.
It was. Y'all game was close.
I think he got me by less than 10. But what made it so bad is we made that trade right before the game.
Right.
And the running backs that we exchanged, there's like a 9-point difference.
Right.
I'm like, if I would have lost by something inside that range, I'd have been mad. But it was enough that even with that, I would have still lost. I'm like, okay. I'm all
Right. But can't be
right.
mad at it, my brother. All
Nope.
right. Well, we shall see how things shake out for week 14.
We shall.
Until next time, good friends. Peace.